Hey guys, I'm getting away to spend a little time with Jesus, and I've decided to bring you along with me. Let's go. I decided to get away with Jesus, and this is what happened. Life can be so hectic. I mean, even the mundane has a way of wearing us down. There are so many competing voices vying for our attention. And what I've learned is that silence and solitude were some of Jesus's regular disciplines. Here's a question I want you to process for just a moment. Do you feel as though God is distant? Do you wish that the voice of the Lord was louder in your life? Matthew 11:28 in the Message translation says this: Are you tired? Are you worn out? Are you burnt out on religion? Jesus says, come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. See how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I mean, does that sound like you? Are you tired? Are you worn out? Then find a way to get away with Jesus. I got away with him for the last 24 hours, and this is what happened. He met with me. I feel refreshed, renewed, restored, ready for what's next. It reminds me of in 1 Kings chapter 19. The prophet Elijah finds himself at the end of himself. His mind was fried, he was stressed out. He even pondered whether or not he could go on. Nevertheless, God tells him to go up to the mountain because he wants to meet with him there. That God himself was going to show up. So Elijah goes up on the mountain, and while he's on the mountain, there's this great wind that shakes the mountain violently, and yet the Lord was not in the wind. There was an earthquake that was preceded by a fire, and the Lord was not in any of those either. The Bible says after all of the noise came the still small voice of God. Some translators have translated that as the sound of sheer silence. God was in the silence? I mean, let's just be real. Why is silence so difficult to deal with? A study done by the Environmental Protection Agency stated that 183 million Americans are regularly exposed to excessive amounts of noise. See, when we're in search for God's direction, it's never going to be found in the noise. I mean, do you have a phone, an iPad, a TV? Are you on Facebook? Do you have WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok? What about visual noise? We see billboards and strip malls and ads everywhere. Perhaps what we've done is we've allowed the noises of this world to drown out the voice of God. Maybe we've allowed it to drown out what God is really trying to tell us. The truth is our agendas have taken precedence over God's voice. What if instead of consulting our peers about the issues or complaining to the crowds, we took it to the Lord and spent the same amount of time that we spend worrying, just listening? Maybe the healing, the freedom, the guidance that we are so desperately seeking isn't going to be found in another meeting or listening to another sermon or another podcast or even another therapy session, but in simply listening for the voice of God. Is it possible that you've been looking to God to speak to you in the wind, in the earthquakes, in the fires, but God's been sitting there waiting to show you that he wants to meet with you in the silence? Ask yourself, does my schedule, my time, my life look like that of a person who's looking and seeking to hear God's voice? So let me ask you again, does God feel distant? Do you wish that his voice would be louder in your life? Perhaps there's a connection between all of the noise in our lives and the inability that we have to actually hear his voice. Let us learn to tune out the noises like our cell phones, social media, and all of the above. And I'm not here saying that there's anything inherently wrong with these things, but sometimes we've got to prioritize spending time with him alone. We've all been in the conversation where somebody's talking to you and every 5 seconds they pick up their phone. Subliminally, we're sending a message that whoever's in front of you isn't as important as what could possibly be on our phone. Is it possible that we're doing the same thing with God? Let's learn to find comfort in the silence and the solitude. You see, it was after Elijah found God in the silence that he was given the instruction to anoint one as king, one as prophet, and one as priest. Which tells me that kingdom direction only comes after being alone with God, after hearing his still small voice. See, the silence brings clarity. You see, how can we expect to get divine direction for our lives without being intentional about staying connected to him? In John 15:5, Jesus says this, "I am the vine and you are the branches. If I remain in you and you remain in me, you will bear much fruit." One translation says, "If you abide in me and I in you. Apart from me," now listen, it says you can do nothing. If I'm going to be honest, I've always heard that as, apart from him, we can't do anything. Now that's a completely different claim altogether. But what he actually says is you can do nothing. What I've learned is that we can do a lot without him. We can do work without him. We could do family without him. We could do life without him. We could do ministry without him. We can even build churches without him. We can preach, we can pray, we can sing, but at the end of the day, all of those things done without him amount to nothing. They're like building sandcastles on the beach. Here today and gone tomorrow. Here's my point. Without him, without hearing clearly from him, it all amounts to nothing. The Bible says in Proverbs 29:18 that without vision, the people perish. Without divine direction, the people lose themselves. Getting away with him keeps us connected and attentive to his voice. You see, there's a lot of emphasis on the truths of Jesus, but we rarely talk about the way of Jesus. And the way of Jesus is just as important as the truths of Jesus. Think about the way that Jesus lived and compare it to how most of us live our lives today, especially in the West. Jesus was full of joy, and most of us are full of stress. Jesus didn't worry, and some say that we're the most anxious generation in history. Jesus actually stopped for people, and ain't nobody got time for that. So let's turn down the noise, let's get rid of what doesn't matter, let's eliminate all distractions and seek him. Get away with Jesus. Come to Jesus and he will give you rest. You don't have to earn it, it's his gift to you. If you like this video, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Content that will help equip you to become a wholehearted follower of Jesus. We'll catch you in the next one. All right, start the journey back.